So hello and welcome to this tutorial on functions in PHP. In this tutorial, we will be discussing the user-defined functions, function arguments and returning values. Now these are important concepts in PHP programming that will help you create more flexible and powerful functions. So now without any further ado, let's get started. So now let's start this video by user-defined functions. Now user-defined functions are functions that are created by a user to perform a specific task. They are defined using the function keyword. Followed by the function name, parentheses and the curly braces containing the code to be executed. So now let me create the basic function for you. So now as you know, we have some functions that are built-in functions, like if you see the echo, just like that. Now this is a function and this function is a built-in function by PHP, but when we create the function ourselves, those functions are called the user-defined functions. So I'm going to create a user-defined function here. For creating a function, we use the function keyword, and then after this function keyword, we type the name of the function. So suppose I want to create the sum function to sum two values. And now if you want, you can also expect some arguments in between those opening and closing parentheses. Now I'm going to expect two arguments here. So the first argument will be like param1 and the second argument is going to be the param2. So I'm going to type param2. So now this is going to be the parameter 2. So I need to type the param2 just like that. And then you have to just create the opening and closing curly brackets. This is where your code will be executed and this is where you have to put your code. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just echo the value of both of these values. So first of all, I'm gonna create a variable here and I'm gonna name that variable as total, and the total is going to be the combination of param1 as well as the combination of param2. I need to also type the dollar sign here, otherwise this parameter won't work. And now after that I have to use the plus sign, and after this plus sign I'm gonna use the param2. So here I'm doing the arithmetic operation and I'm saving this value here in the total variable. Now let's just echo this total variable. Now as you know, when we have defined a function, we also need to call it to be able to execute the code and to be able to execute the function. Now you can call the function by using its name and passing any necessary arguments. So here I have this function name as sum, and as you can see I have these parameters for this function, and all these parameters are necessary parameters. These are not the optional parameters. And now I have to just type the sum. This is the name of the function, and then I need to create the opening and closing parentheses, and in between those parentheses I have to specify the arguments. And now the arguments is going to be like 20 plus like 13 or 12. Now let's just get back to the browser. I have opened my page first.php and my Apache server is also running. And now if I refresh the page, as you can see 32, this is the answer I was expecting. Now what this function does, it just sums the values that you are passing here. Now let me also create another function that is going to check if a particular value is even or not. So I'm going to create one. First of all, I need to type the function keyword, and then after that function keyword I need to type the name of the function. In this case it is going to check if a particular number is even or odd. So I'm going to type is even, and after that you have to type the num just like that, and in between those opening and closing curly brackets you have to do your calculation. So now for checking if a particular number is even or odd, what we do, we just type the syntax like this number that I'm receiving from here is, if the answer is 0, so let me type 0. So now this is the way we use to check if a particular number is even or odd. So what essentially it is doing here is, we are saying that if we divide this number that we are receiving by 2 and the answer is like 0, then it is the even number, otherwise it is the odd number. So now I need to save this here in the variable. So I need to type let me type result, and now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna type the if statement. If this particular number is like, I need to type this result here because this expression will return true or false based on the result. And now if it returns true, then what we will do, we will also return the true value here to the caller of this function, which is the is even. And now I need to also type the else statement as well, and otherwise we will return false. So I'm going to type false here now, and here I am typing the if statement. So if this thing is true, then this block of code will be executed, and if it is false, then this block of code will be executed. Now let's just call this function. Now I will call this function here. Now I'm going to call this function here is if, and I want to call this is even function, and the is even function is going to be like, I need to type the is even just like that. And now I'm saving the returned value for this function inside this variable. And now let's just type your number. So I'm gonna type like 12. Now as you know, 12 is the even number, so this function will return us the true value, and now that true value will be stored here. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just output the value like I want to type the is if this is the true value returned from this even is even function, and it is stored here and I'm using it here. So if this thing that I'm typing here is true, then this block of code will be executed. So I'm gonna echo the statement. So let's just type the echo, and now 12 is even, so the 12 is even. Otherwise we also have to type the else statement as well. So I'm gonna type the else. If it is not the case, if it is not the true, then I will execute the code inside it. So I'm gonna type like echo, and then after this echo I'm gonna type 4 is odd. If it is not even, then it is odd. So now it is like 12, not the 4. Let's just get back, and if I refresh the page, you will see that it is an even number. And if I just change it to like 13, let's just pass 13 here. And now we also have to change this thing a little bit, like we have to pass the 13 here. Now you will see that it will execute the else block, because 13 is not the even number, it is the odd number. And if you refresh the page, as you can see, 13 is odd. So these are the two examples that I have created as the user defined functions. Now let's talk about the function arguments in a little bit more details. So let me just clear this code so that I can start explaining you from scratch. Now functions arguments are values that are passed to a function when it is called. Arguments are defined inside the parentheses followed by the name of the function, and the function can use these values to perform a specific task. So as I said, you have to just type the function keyword and then the name of the function. In this case I'm going to just I'm going to name it as func name, and then you have to type the opening and closing parentheses, and inside those parentheses you have to type your arguments like arg1 and arg2. You can just type whatever number of arguments you like here according to the need of your function. And after that, here in between those opening and closing curly brackets, you have to type the code that will be executed when you call this function. And now you can use these two arguments inside this function to do different sort of operations with them. Now there are two types of passing types for the functions: passed by reference and passed by value. Now when a function is called, the arguments can be passed by value. Now when a function is called, the arguments can be passed by value or passed by reference. When passed by value, the function receives a copy of the argument, and any changes made to the argument inside the function do not affect the original value. When passed by reference, the function receives a reference to the original variable value. The function receives a reference to the original variable, and any changes made to the argument inside the function also affect the original value. Now the main difference between the two is how the function handles the arguments and whether or not the changes made to the function argument within the function affects the original value. Now let's talk about the passing arguments by reference first. When you pass an argument by value, the function creates a copy of the value passed to it. So any changes made to the argument within the function do not affect the original value. This means that the original value remains unchanged after the function call. So now I'm going to create the example for you. So let's just cut this code, and now I'm going to create another function, and that function will just add the value, and it will add the 5. So I'm going to type add 5, and now in between those opening and closing parentheses I have to pass the parameter. So I'm going to type the number or num in short form, and inside this I will add the 5 to whatever number the user passes. So how do I do that? So first of all I will add the I will type num plus 5, just like that. Now it will just add the 5 to this number, and now I will create another variable, and I'm going to name that variable as result, just like that. This calculated value will be stored inside this result, and now what I'm gonna do, I will just return this result here. I'm gonna type return result, and now let me just get back there, and now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create a variable here, and that variable is going to be the number, and I'm going to assign the 10 value, and I'm going to assign the 10 value to it. And now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just use the add 5 function, which is this one. So for using the function, as you know, we need to specify its name. So I'm gonna specify add 5, just like that, and after that opening and closing parentheses, and now I have to specify which number I want to pass it, and now I need to specify which number I want to pass. I can just hard code the value just like that, or I can also pass the variable here. So I'm going to pass the variable that I have created here, which is the number. So now when I'm passing this number to this add 5, it is just taking a separate copy of this number that I'm passing, which is this one. It is taking a separate copy. Whenever I'm passing this number here to this function, it is taking the separate copy of this variable that I have here. And now whenever I make some changes in this num that I'm passing here, and now inside this number, whenever I make some changes in this number, those changes will not be reflected to this number, and the value of this number will stay the same. And now what I'm doing here is I'm just calculating the value, and I'm returning the value wherever this function gets called. So this function is getting called here. Now it is returning a value, so I need to also store this value. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just store this value here, and I'm going to create a new variable, and that variable is going to be like new number. I'm going to name it new number. You can name it whatever you like, and after that I'm going to echo the value. So now let's echo the original value first. So the original value is original, and then I want to type the number variable, just like that. Now let's also echo the new one as well. So new number value, and now I want to just type the new number, just like that. Now let's also add the HTML tag to add the line break here, and now I'm going to add the line break here after typing the dot vr, and now it will just add the line break here after that, so that we don't mix up these numbers. And now you will see the output here. Let's just refresh the page. As you can see, the original value stays the same. It is the 10, but the new number is 15. So this is what's called the passed by value. Now let's talk about passing arguments by reference. Now when you pass an argument by reference, the function receives a reference to the original value passed to it. Any changes made to the argument within the function affect the original value. This means that the original value can be modified using the function call. So let me create the example for that as well. So I'm going to type the function add 10, because this time I will add the 10 to this number. Now for receiving an argument by reference, we need to first type the ampersand sign before the name of the variable, and then we have to type the name of the variable. In this case, the name of the variable is going to be like number. So I'm going to type the number here, or you can also type it num here. This is the temporary name for the variable. And now what I'm gonna do, I will make some changes here. I will just type like number num plus 10, just like that, because I'm adding the 10. As you can see, the name of this function is 10, so I'm doing the same thing here. Now I also need a way to store the result of this expression. So how do I do that? Now I will use the same num variable to just store this new value that is passed to it. So now let me explain you that a little bit. As you can see, this is added. So what I'm doing here is I'm receiving a reference to a particular variable. I'm doing some modifications here, and now I'm assigning the value to that variable with the same name. So as I said, this is the reference to a particular variable. So if you just save the variable, this variable, with another name like result, and if you return that result, then you won't see any changes in the original value that the user is passing. You have to pass the name of the variable same as you are receiving here. So now this name could be anything, like you can also name it whatever you like ABC or anything. But remember, whichever variable you use here, you have to also assign the value to that variable to be able to make the changes in the original one. So now I don't need to return something from this function because I'm doing the modification for the original value, and my intention is not to modify some numbers. And now I'm gonna type the original number here. You can just name it whatever you like, and now I want to just type it like 10. So 10 plus 10 is going to be like 20. So now let's just call this add 10 function. So now I'm gonna call this add 10 function, and I want to just specify the number variable here. Now it doesn't matter what the variable name you pass from here. If that variable will receive here, whatever alias you have here for this particular variable will be used as the original reference to the variable. If I echo the number, then you will see that the number is now 20. So let me just echo the number. So now this time when I am passing this number to this function, I am passing the reference to this number and not the copy of this number to this function. So it will take that reference and it will make some changes on that reference to this variable, and it will make it like 20. So if you add the 10 plus 10, it is going to be 20, and that value is now assigned to the original reference which I am receiving here. So now this is the alias of this number, and I am just assigning the new value to this one. That means I am assigning the new value to this original number, and now I am outputting this value here using the echo statement. If I refresh the page, you will see the value 20 here instead of the 10, as you can see. So passing arguments by reference can be useful when you want to modify the value of a variable inside a function and have that change reflected in the original variable. Now let's move on to the other topic of today's video, which is the default arguments. Now default arguments are values that are used when an argument is not provided when the function is called. Default values can be defined by using the equals to operator in the function declaration. So now I'm going to create the separate function for that. So now I'm going to demonstrate you the example of default arguments. So first of all, as you know, we type the function keyword, and after this function keyword we type the name of the function. The name of the function could be anything, so I'm going to type function name just to explain you. And now inside this we type the arguments like A, B, C or anything, and those arguments are mandatory. That means you have to pass these arguments to be able to run this function correctly. But suppose for some function calls I don't want to specify the arguments, I want to just call this function right away. I want to call this function without the argument. So now for that I have to specify the default value here so that it will not produce any error, and I want to specify the default value for that as 10. Now you can just specify the default value for a particular argument according to your need. Like the data type of that could be anything. It could be like true, it could be like boolean, it could be like a string, like this is a string, or it could also be a number. Now let me just type the number here like 10. Now let me just create a meaningful function. This is just the simple explanation of the syntax of the default arguments. Let's just cut this, and now let's just create a function. So that function is going to add two numbers, and now inside this function I will have two arguments, and both of these two arguments will be optional. So the first one is the num1, and if I don't specify the value to this num1, I will just make the default value as 0, and after separating it by a comma I'm also going to create the num2 as well, and for that too I also want to specify the default value as 0, and let's just type the opening and closing curly brackets. Now let's just return the values right away. So I'm going to type the return statement. So now after this return statement, what I'm going to do, I will just add num1 and num2. So now num1 plus num2. I'm going to terminate this statement with the semicolon, and now let's just call this function. And now as you know, this function will also return a value, so I'm going to create the variable to store that value, and I'm gonna name that variable as result, and I will just call this add to num function. And now inside this I want to specify like two numbers like 12 and like 32, and now you will see the 40 as the result of this. And now I'm gonna type result. Let's just get back to the browser. Let's refresh the page. So as you can see, I'm also making the mistake here. Here I have to specify num2 instead of num1. Otherwise it will just give me the wrong value. As you can see, now it is giving me the 44 value. That means our function is working correctly. If you add the 32 in 12, the answer is going to be 44. But suppose for some reason I don't want to specify the value for the second argument. Now what it will do, it will just try to add this first argument that I'm passing like 12 with the num2, which has the default value 0. Now you will get the 12 here in this variable, and your function will work perfectly fine. As you can see, you are getting 12, and if you don't want to specify the 12 as well, and if you want to keep the function empty just like that, now the default value for your arguments is 0 0. So if you add 0 and 0, the answer is going to be 0. So 0 will be returned to this result, and now you will be able to see the 0 value here. As you can see, this is the 0 value. Now let's finally talk about this return statement in details. Now the return statement is used to return a value from a function. When the return statement is encountered, the function will stop executing and return the value specified. Now as you can see, I have already created a function. Now this function adds two numbers and returns a value. A function in PHP can return a value after it has completed its task. So the task for this function was just to add two numbers. So now I have just typed the return statement right away instead of storing the result of these variables inside a variable. Now this return value can be of any data type, including the strings, integers, arrays and objects. Now as I said, after this return statement, the function stops executing the code that is written after that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to type the echo statement after this return statement, and let's see if it works. This is the string after the return statement, and now this is the string after the return statement. I'm calling this function here. Let's see if it executes the code after this return statement. And now I'm gonna refresh the page. As you can see, it is giving me the 0 value, and it is giving me the same value as it was giving before. And now if I type 10 plus like 21, now let's see. As you can see, now it is giving me the 31 value. So it is ignoring the code that is written after this return statement. Let's add this code before the return statement, and let's see if it executes this code. And if I refresh the page, as you can see, it is executing the code that is written before the return statement, and it is also giving us the returned value with the calculation of num1 and num2 by adding these two numbers that I am passing. Now to explain it further, let me also create another example. Let's also create another function. For that I'm going to delete this function, and now I'm going to create another function, and that function is going to be the function that I have already explained to you, which is the is_even. And I will just take the number whatever the user passes. If I will check if that number that the user is typing divided by 2 is equals to like 0. This is not the division sign, this is the remainder sign. For division we use the forward slash. Let's just use this remainder sign. Now what I'm saying, if the remainder of this number is equal to 0, so how do you find the remainders? We just divide the number by 2, and we will check if the value of that is equal to 0, then it is the even number. So now I'm going to just return the true value. So now what this function will do, it will check if the condition here is true, then it will execute this code. And in this code here you can see you have the return keyword, and also you have the return value here. Now this function will return true or false, so I'm just returning true here. So after this return statement, it will not execute the code. Whatever you type after that will be ignored, like this will be ignored. And suppose if the number that the user is passing is not the even number, then we also have to return the return something like in this case I will return the false. And now if the number is even number, then we will return the true, whoever is calling this function. And now if it is not, then we will return the false. And now after the return statement, the function immediately stops executing and it just returns the value that you have typed here after this return keyword. And now let's just call this isEven function, and now let's just directly see the value of the isEven. So I'm going to type isEven, and then it will return the true or false based on the value that I have specified. So I'm going to specify 10 here, and let's see how it looks like. I'm going to refresh the page. As you can see, it is giving me the one value. That means it is returning the true. And if I return something else like 11, now the 11 is the odd number and it is not the even number. Now it will return you the 0 value, and if the 0 value is returned in the boolean context, then that value will not show up here. So I'm going to refresh the page. As you can see, it is disappeared now. So that's it for today's video, guys. I hope you found this tutorial on functions helpful, and now I will see you in the next tutorial of the functions. So hello and welcome to this tutorial on functions in PHP. In this tutorial we will discuss some advanced topics related to the functions in PHP, including the variable functions, built-in functions and anonymous functions. Now, so let's start off with the variable functions. Now, variable functions are functions that can be called dynamically using the value of a variable as a function name. The syntax for a variable function is, first of all, you have to just type the name of the variable. So now I'm going to type the name of the variable like variable, and now after that I have to just type the name of the function. So suppose the function name is sum. This value is the name of the function and this is the variable, so that's the reason why it is called the variable function. And now let's just create a function with the name of sum. So I'm going to create a function and I'm going to just type the name of the function like sum, and now inside this I will just take two arguments, the 1 and the 2, and now I will just return the sum value. So just type the return a plus b. Now I'm just adding these two values and I'm returning the values using the return keyword. Now how do I call this function? For that I'm going to use the variable function. Now as I said, variable functions are functions that can be called dynamically using the value of a variable as a function. So this is the value of a variable that I'm going to use as a function name, as a function call, and this is the variable. Now for calling this sum function, what I will do, I will just use this variable. Now inside this variable, as you can see, I have assigned the sum value. So that means this variable is equals to sum, and now I can just call this sum function on it, just like I'm calling it like this, it will just work the same way. Now let me just pass two arguments, so like 32 and 8, and now it will just return me the value. I also have to save the value somewhere else, so I'm going to save it in the result variable, and let's just echo the value, and I'm going to echo the result, and let's refresh the page. As you can see, I'm making the mistake here. I need to put the $sign because the variables in PHP start with the $sign, and now let's just also put the $sign here, and now this code will work perfectly fine. So what I'm doing here is I'm just saving the name of the function in this variable. So whenever I need to call this sum function, I can use this variable, and that's the reason why it is called a variable function. And now I'm just using this variable to call this function sum function, because this sum is saved inside this variable, and I'm just passing the two values to it. The first is the 32 and the second is the 8, and now this will be saved in the result variable. And now I'm just echoing the value to the screen, and if I refresh the page, as you can see, this is the output, and that's what I was expecting. Now you can name this variable whatever you like if I want to change this, I can just specify whatever value like my sum, just like that. I have to use the same here as well, and now I'm specifying the value, and now it will just call this function that I have here. You can also create the empty functions as well. If you don't want to create the functions with arguments, then you can just leave it as is, and you can just do the modifications here a little bit. And now I want to change it to like 20, and now let's just cut these, and now this function will work perfectly fine as it was working before. and if I refresh the page, it is giving us the output 30. Now you can also use the same technique like variables functions to call the built-in functions. Now PHP has several built-in functions for doing different type of operations, like we have the str length. Now what this function does, it just returns us the length of the particular string. So I'm going to pass the string here. This is the string, and now it will just return me the string. Let's just echo the value, and now if I just check it here in the browser, it is just showing me the length of the characters inside the string. Now let me do the same thing using the variable functions, and let's just cut this, and now I'm going to type my str underscore len. Now I want to just specify the name of this particular function, and this function is like str len. Now let's just copy this and paste it here, and now for calling this function, now I don't need to specify it with the strlen. I can just call this function using my strlen, and now let's just do that. I'm gonna just type my strlen, and inside this I'm gonna put my text like this is a string. Let's see what result it is going to give us, and if I refresh the page, as you can see, it is not giving us any result. The reason for that is we haven't typed the echo here to display the value. And if I refresh the page again, as you can see, this is the result. Now I have 16 characters in my string. Now talking about the built-in functions of PHP, let me give you an overview of what these built-in functions are. Now built-in functions are functions that are included in PHP core and are available to use without the need for additional code or libraries. Now these functions can perform a wide range of tasks, from manipulating these strings and arrays to working with files and databases. You can do different sort of operations with them. So now let me show you some of these functions. Some of these functions include like echo, print, strlen and strposition. Now there are hundreds of built-in functions, and I will cover those built-in functions in my upcoming tutorial, so just don't worry. But let me show you some of these functions. So the first function that we usually use for the beginner level tutorial is the echo. So if you type the echo here, as you can see, this is a function and it just expects the variable number of arguments. And now I will also cover this in more details, so you don't have to worry about that. And now here you have to just specify whatever you want to echo and whatever you want to display to the screen. And in this case I want to display this is the string. Let's see, and I'm gonna refresh the page. This is the string, so now it is just echoing the value. And you also have the strlen. Now this function, as I said, returns the length of the characters inside a particular string. And now if I just refresh the page, it will just return me. Now it just returns a value, so I also need a way to store it. As you can see, it returns the integer value. Now I can just store that value, or I can just directly echo that value to the console. And let me just echo the value directly. As you can see, now this is the strlen function. You also have some other functions like strpos. So I'm going to type strpos. Now as the first value here, you have to specify the string, and the second value here you have to specify the thing that you want to find. So now let's just specify the this string. I want to find this string. Let's just type it string, and let me just copy this and let's just paste it here, and let's see what result it is going to give us. And if I refresh the page, as you can see, this string is starting from the character 12. So let's just count those characters. So this is the 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. You also have to count the spaces as well. And now as you can see, it is starting from 12 and it is ending up here at the end. So the strpos gives us the position of the particular string. Now you also have the print function. I'm going to type print here just like that. Now I don't have to type this echo because this print function does the same thing. It just outputs a string. Now let me just cut this, and now it just outputs only one string. So I'm going to just output this string here. And if I refresh the page, as you can see, this is the output that I was expecting. Now let's move on to another topic of today's video, which is the anonymous functions. Now the anonymous function is a function without a name that can be assigned to a variable or passed as an argument to another function. Anonymous functions are also sometimes referred to as the lambda functions or closures. So now let me show you how you can create the lambda functions. First of all, I'm going to compare this regular function to this anonymous function. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just type the name of the regular function. So this is the regular function, and now I'm going to create a function with the name of like add, and inside this function I'm going to add two things. So the first thing is the like 10, and then I will add like 32 in it, or any value that you like 12 or anything like 13. Now this is a regular function. As you can see, this function has a name, and now whenever I need to call this function, how do I do that? I will just type the name of the function just like that, add, and now it will just return me the value, and I'm directly echoing the value without saving it in a variable and then echoing it. And now if I take you to the browser and let me refresh the page, this is the value that I was expecting, because I'm just adding two numbers 10 and 13, and the value will obviously be like 23. And now, as I said, anonymous functions are functions without the name. So now let me just create those functions. So for creating the anonymous function, you need to type the function keyword just like that, and after typing the function keyword, you need to type the same syntax as you do with the functions, like the opening and closing parentheses and then the opening and closing curly brackets. Here, in between these opening and closing curly brackets, you need to put your code that you want to be executed, and in between these parentheses, you need to specify the arguments that you want to expect to be able to make this function work. And if you want to keep it empty and you don't want any argument, just like I did here, then you can just also keep it blank. And now we have created a function, and now let me just type the return, and now I want to just return the 20 plus and 42, and now this is called the anonymous function. Now how do I run this anonymous function? As you know, in case of the regular functions, we use the name of the function to call the particular function, but in case of the anonymous function, how do I call it? Now, as I said, the anonymous functions can be assigned to a variable, so we need to assign this anonymous function to a variable. So now for assigning it to a variable, I'm going to create a variable, and I'm going to name that variable add num, just like that, and I want to assign this function into it. Now as you can see, this is a variable and this is the assignment operator, and I'm assigning this function here with no name. Now whenever I need to call this anonymous function, I will use this variable because this is the reference to this function. Now let me show you how you can call this function. So for calling this function, you have to first of all use the name of the variable, which is this one that I have here. Now after typing the name of the variable, you need to type the opening and closing parentheses just like you do when calling the regular function. So I'm gonna just type the opening and closing parenthesis, and now there is also a thing that you should keep in mind. Whenever you are creating the anonymous function, you also need to put the semicolon after that. And now this is not necessary in case of the regular function, but whenever you are creating the anonymous function just like this, you need to put the semicolon at the end where the curly bracket is ending. This is the ending curly bracket, and then you have to put the semicolon after that. And now let me just call this function. As you can see, I'm not expecting any kind of arguments here for this anonymous function, and these anonymous functions are also called the lambda functions or closures. Now let's just get back to the browser. Let me refresh the page, and as you can see, it is not displaying any value. The reason for that is we haven't used the echo statement. So let's just use the echo, and let's just comment this echo because I don't want to display the value of this add function just now. And if I refresh the page, you will see the value that I was expecting. I'm adding the 20 and 42, so the value is going to be like 62. And now that means our anonymous function is working perfectly fine. Let's just cut this semicolon and let's see if it still works. And if I refresh the page, as you can see, it is giving me the error, syntax error, unexpected token echo. So it is expecting the semicolon here, but now when you don't put the semicolon, it just show you the next thing, like echo is the next thing that is written here. So now the interpreter sees this echo instead of the like semicolon, so it just gives you the error. According to that, it says that syntax error, unexpected token echo. So it is saying that it is not echo is not expected here. You need to put this this thing like semicolon, and if I refresh the page, it will still work fine, as you can see. Now this is the thing that you should keep in mind. Now let's talk about the anonymous function with arguments. Now for passing the arguments, you need to use the same thing as you do with the regular functions. You need to type the name of your variable that you want to expect. So now var1, I'm going to name this variable as var1, and I'm going to name this second variable as var2. Now I'm just expecting this, and let's just do the calculation with this, and I'm going to just paste them here. Let's also copy it and paste it here. And now this is the anonymous function with two arguments. We are expecting two arguments here, and we are doing the calculation here. You can just do whatever calculation you like, but in this case, because this function is saved inside the add num, so now I'm going to add these two numbers, and that's what I'm doing here. Let's just add these two numbers like 93 plus like 7. Now the answer is going to be 100, and it just returns the value. And if I just get back to the browser, as you can see, the value is 100. Now instead of hard coding the value here, you can just also save these values as a variables, and like var, and I'm going to name it as var1, and that var1 is going to be with the value of 93, and var2, I'm going to also create a variable with the name var2, and I'm going to put the like 10 here. Now let's just specify these variables here. I'm going to specify the var1 and var2, and this is the var2. And now let's see if it works. I'm passing the arguments to this anonymous function. It says that unexpected token echo. So I think I made the same mistake. As you can see, I forgot to put the semicolon here. And if I refresh the page again, let's just get back to the browser, refresh the page again. Now it is giving us the correct value that we were expecting. And now I have created those variables here, and I'm passing those variables here. Now this function just takes the copy of these variables that I'm passing, because I'm passing these variables as the value and not the reference. So it will just take this copy and it just modify it according to the its working that I'm doing, and it just returns us. And what I'm doing here is I'm directly echoing it. If I want, I can also save it in a variable like that, and then I can just echo the value and echo. I can just echo the result. Now you will see the same thing in the browser, 103. Now suppose I don't want to specify these variables here, and now let's just declare these variables at the top. Now these variables are in the global scope. As you know, these variables are not declared inside a class, in a method, or in a function. These are declared without any class, method, or function. So these are the global variables. And now let's just try accessing these global variables inside this function. And now let's just also cut these, and let's just cut these. And now let's try accessing these variables and see what happens. So it is just returning the var1 plus var2, the value of both var1 and var2 that I have declared here at the top. And now let's just delete this regular function. And now this is what I'm doing here. This is what I'm doing here. And if I refresh the page, you will get the error. It says that undefined variable var1. It says that this variable that you are trying to access is undefined. And now for accessing this, you can also use the global keyword. But when you are using the anonymous function, there is also a special way of accessing these variables. Now for accessing these global variables, instead of using the parameters, you can use the use keyword, and then after using the use keyword, you have to use the opening and closing parenthesis, and in between those parentheses you have to specify the name of your variables that you want to use with the $sign as well, including the $sign. So I'm gonna just specify the variables, and I'm gonna put them here. Now as you can see, I'm not passing any type of argument to this function. As you can see, it is empty. And now by using the use keyword and by using this syntax, I can just access the global variables inside the anonymous functions. So now I'm calling this anonymous function here. This anonymous function is now saved inside this variable, and that's the reason why I'm using the name of the variable to call it, and I'm not giving any type of value, and after the calculation it is returning me the value. So I'm storing the value here in this result variable, and now I'm just echoing the value, and now you will see the correct value. As you can see, now our function is working perfectly fine. Now you are not only limited to passing the values like the numeric values and string values and arrays and objects to the function. You can also pass the anonymous function as the argument of a particular function. So now for this example, I'm going to create a function, and I'm going to name that function as val. Inside this function I will expect one argument, and that argument is going to be a. What I will do, I will just return the value that is like a. I want to just simply return the a value that this function receives. This is the simplest function that you can create. Now let's just comment this code that I have here, and let's just comment this code so that you can just focus on this code. And now this is the function that I have created with the name of val. This is the regular function, or you can also call it a normal function. That's how we create the functions, and this is the old way of creating the function. And now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just call this function. So how do I do that? I just type the name of this function, and I will just pass the argument to this function, and now it will just return me the same thing that I'm passing here. So I'm gonna just output that thing using the echo, and let's just get back to the browser. Let's refresh the page, and as you can see, you are seeing the right output. And now what I'm gonna do, instead of passing the number here, I want to pass a function. So now for creating a function here, I'm gonna type the function and then the name of the function. I want to just name that function as like disp, and now I want to just type something inside it, and as you can see, that's how we create a function. We type the function keyword, and then the name of the function, and then the opening and closing parentheses, and then the opening and closing curly brackets. And now I'm calling this val function, and I'm passing the whole function into it. Let's see if it works. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna simply return the this is the text. So now let me explain you what I'm doing here. I have created a function, and as you know, for executing a function we need to call it. So I'm calling it here, and instead of passing the number or any other value, I'm just passing the whole function inside it, and the name of the function is like display. And let's see if it works. And if I get back to the browser, if I refresh the page, as you can see, it is giving me the syntax error, unexpected identifier disp. So it is saying that this disp is not expected here. You cannot pass the function with the name as a value to the function. So now you cannot pass the name as the argument of a function. So I'm passing the function with a particular name. Now you cannot pass the function with the name, but you can pass the function without the name, and those functions are called the anonymous functions. And now I have passed this function here to this variable. Now on the background, what it will do, it will just assign this function to this variable that I have created here, this argument. So now on the background it will just work like that. I'm gonna just type it like this. So it will just create a variable, and what it will do, it will just assign this function at the background to this particular variable, just like that. It will work the same way as I have defined here. And now this function without the name will be assigned to the variable that I have here, just like we assign the anonymous function when we create the anonymous function, and we assign the anonymous function to a particular variable. And this is what I'm doing here. I'm just passing this function as the value of this val function, and this function will be received here. And as you know, for calling the anonymous function, we use the name of the variable first, and then we type the opening and closing parentheses, just like that, and then this function gets called. And you also have to just type the semicolon like that. And that's what I need to do here. I'm passing the function here, and that function will be received by this variable. And now I'm just simply returning this variable here. Now for calling this anonymous function that I have created, I need to also put the opening and closing parentheses, just like that. Now let's just comment this, because this was just an example, and this is the thing that happens when you just pass the anonymous function as the argument of a particular function. Now let me show you how this code will be executed. So now first of all interpreter sees this function, and now it will not do anything with this function unless you call this function. So I'm calling this function here, and I'm passing the anonymous function as an argument to this function. That function will be received by this variable, and this function will be assigned to this variable. And now for calling the anonymous function, we use this syntax, as you know. So what I will do, I will just call this function here. As you can see, I'm using the $sign, and after that I'm using the name of the function. Now this is the name that is assigned to this function. This is the variable that is assigned to this function. After this, I'm using these parentheses just like that, and then I'm just terminating it with the semicolon. So here it will call this anonymous function, which is this one. After it calls this function, the code that I have here inside this anonymous function will be executed. And as you can see, this anonymous function is returning a string. This is the string that it is returning. So that string will be received by this function. And now if I want, I can just directly echo this value here, or I can just return the value to the caller. So this is what I'm doing. I'm just returning the value that I'm receiving from this anonymous function. And now this returned value will be received by the caller. So the caller is this val function. I'm calling this here on the line number 21. This will be received here because I'm calling this val function first, and I'm passing this function here as the anonymous function. As you know, for displaying the value, we use the echo statement. If we want, we can also just save the returned value inside a variable. I'm gonna create a result variable, and I'm gonna store it inside it. And now I also want to echo the result. So I'm gonna just do the echo result just like that, and let's just get back and now refresh the page. As you can see, this is the display, and this is what we were expecting. Our code is working and there is no error or warning in our code. Now there is also a use of anonymous function, and that use is returning the function directly from the function that I'm calling, instead of doing all this process, instead of using this anonymous function here as the argument. So what I'm gonna do, so now I'm gonna just cut all this code, and what I will do, as you know, I was calling the anonymous function here. Now instead of calling the anonymous function here, what I can also do, I can just put my anonymous function directly here just like that. Now let's just cut this argument so that I can show you what I'm doing here. So now I'm doing the same thing, but in a little bit different way. Now let me just show you what I'm doing here from scratch. Here you can see I have created a function val, and inside this function I'm doing my code, and I'm just simply returning another function here, and in this function I'm just returning the text. So now for accessing this function, first of all I need to call this function that I have here, and now for calling this function I'm going to type the name of this function, and the name of the function is val, and now it is not expecting any type of argument. As you can see, now it just returns us another function. So now if I try to do it like this, as you can see, it will not work. The reason for that is whenever we create the anonymous function, we save that function in a variable. So let me show you what I'm saying. And now I'm going to create a function with the name like func, and that function is going to be the anonymous function. So I'm going to assign this function that I have here inside this just like that. Now let me show you what I'm doing. So now what I'm doing here is I'm calling this val function, and this val function is returning me the whole function, and now I'm doing the echo here. So what do you think, it will work or not? No, it will not work. So now if you are typing the echo here, it is similar to the one of this thing like this. So now you cannot do that. You have to first of all store the anonymous function inside a variable. So now when you call this function val, it just returns you the whole anonymous function. Now we need a way to store the returned anonymous function just like we are doing here. So now I'm going to use the same thing. I'm going to just type the func1 here, because I have used the func here. I cannot create the variable with the same name func, so I need to just change the name a little bit like func1, and now I'm just saving this returned anonymous function inside this variable just like I'm doing here. I have created a function and I'm saving the reference to that function inside this variable, and I'm doing the same here. I'm calling a function and that function returns a function, and now I'm just storing the reference to that function inside this function. Now as you know, for calling the anonymous function we have to just specify the name of the variable. After the name of the variable, we need to type the opening and closing parentheses just like that, and then we also need to terminate it with the semicolon. We need to do the same in this case as well. So now for calling this anonymous function that is returned inside this variable, I need to call this func1. I need to type the func1 first and func1, and now after that I need to just put the opening and closing parenthesis, and after that I need to also put the this thing which is the semicolon. Now you will see that this function will be executed. So now let's just get back to the browser. Let's refresh the page, and as you can see, it is not outputting the value. The reason for that is I'm just calling this function here. As you can see, this is the function that is returned from this val function, and this function is stored inside this, and I'm calling this function here, and this function also returns a value. As you can see, it returns the string which is this is the text, and now I need a way to store this return text in a variable, or I can just directly echo the value of this text. As you can see, it is possible to echo the returned string or returned number. So in this case, it is returning the string, so I can just do that. So I'm going to just refresh the page, and this is the output. If I want to do, I can also just create the separate variable to, for saving that as well, like res1. This is the result one, and I can just separately echo that value and res1 just like that. And if I refresh the page, the output is going to be the same. Now this is the simple function. Let's just pass some arguments here. So let's just receive the argument here, and now I'm gonna receive that argument. I'm gonna name that argument as a, and I need to pass some value here to this argument, and I'm gonna pass like 12 here. Now as you can see, this 12 is now passed here to this function which is the val, and I'm not using this val here inside it. Let's just see if our code works. Now the code will work, but we are not using this variable. So now how can you use this value that you are passing to this val inside this function? Let me just try to do it. So now I'm going to type the variable here. So the variable is a, and let's see if it works. I'm going to refresh the page, and as you can see, you are getting the warning. It says that undefined variable a. It says that variable is undefined, and you are using that variable that is undefined. So for using the variable that is inside this function, that is the val function, inside the anonymous function that is being returned, I need to use the use keyword, just like I said before. And then after that, I also need to type the opening and closing parenthesis. And now here I have to specify which variable I want to use. I want to use this a variable. Now what the PHP interpreter will do, it will just save this variable in the memory, and then whenever you want to use it, you can just use it just like you do, just like that. Now it will say that this is the text, and then it will show you the 12 here, because I'm passing the 12 value to this function, and that value is the passed by value. So now the copy of this 12 will be received here to this val function, and now I'm just returning this anonymous function here. That function is now stored here inside this func1, and I'm just calling this function here. As you can see, now this a variable is stored in the memory somewhere. The execution of this val1 is finished on this line, on the line number 26, where I'm calling it, because it is returning a value. So as you know, whenever a function returns a value, the execution gets immediately finished. The work of this val is done now. Now we are doing the work with this function, anonymous function, which is here. And then now for calling this anonymous function, I'm using this func1, and I'm just calling this function here. This function is the anonymous function, and it is using this variable that I'm passing to this, and it has saved this variable temporarily. And now I'm just returning the value from this anonymous function, and now I have saved the returned value here on this variable, because the data type of this value is like string. If it would be the anonymous function, then I have to also store it and then separately call it, and this time it is a string. So now it will just return a string to this func1, and I'm storing that string here, and I'm just echoing the value, and that's how this thing works. And now if I refresh the page, this is the text 12. So that's how this function gets executed. So I hope guys there is no confusion about the anonymous function from now, and if you are still confused, then you can just watch the video again, and you will not be confused anymore. So that's it for today's video guys. I hope you found this tutorial helpful, and now I will see you in the next video of functions. So hello and welcome to another video of my PHP course. In this tutorial, I'm going to talk about how you can declare the variables in PHP. Now as a PHP developer, you have likely come across situations where you need to dynamically create variable names or where you need to access the value of a variable based on the string representation of its name. Now this is where the variables come into handy. In this tutorial, we will explore the concept of variables. So now let's start off with the syntax of creating the variables. Now the syntax of creating variables is pretty simple. You just need to use the two $signs instead of the one to indicate that you are using a string value as a name of a variable. Let me show you the example of this. So I'm going to create a variable and I'm going to name that variable as var underscore name. I want to assign a value to it, and that value is going to be the first var. And now let's terminate it with the semicolon, and after that I'm going to create a variable. This is a regular variable, and now for creating a variable we need to use the double $signs to indicate that this is a variables, and this variable uses the value of another variable. So now I want to use the value of this variable, which I have here, as the name of this particular variable that I'm creating, which is also called the variable. So I have to just type it like this. So I'm gonna copy this and I'm gonna paste this here, and after that I want to assign a value to it, and that value is going to be that like hello world. Now if I just output the value of this variable, now for accessing this value, what I need to do, I need to type the first var. The reason for that is I have assigned this first var value to this variable, which is the var name, and now I'm using the variable here. So now what this variable means, first of all we need to type the $sign to indicate that this is a variable, and then when we type the second $sign and when we create a variable with the this name, and as you can see I have this variable that is already declared at the top. So now by using the double $signs, so by using the double $sign and the name of the existing variable, it indicates that this is a variable. That means the name of this variable will be from the value of another variable. So I'm just using this var name variable here. So now the name of this particular variable with the value of hello world is going to be the first var. Now for accessing this hello world, I need to just type the first var in the echo. So I'm going to type the echo here. So let's just type echo, and then I need to type the first underscore var to be able to access the value. Now let's just get back to the browser. Let's refresh the page. As you can see, hello world, this is the value that I have typed here. Now it is giving me this value because the key of this hello world is this first var, which is the value of this variable that I have created, and now I'm using the value of this variable as the key of this variable, which is the variable. So that's it for the variable guys. So now hopefully that makes sense. Now variables provide a flexible way of accessing and manipulating variables in PHP. They can be used to create variables dynamically and change the names of the variables dynamically. Now to wrap things up, variables are a highly advantageous functionality available in PHP, which enable you to dynamically create variable names and access their respective values using the string representations of a variable names. However, it is important to exercise caution when using variables, as they can present security risks if not implemented properly. So that's it for this video guys. I hope you found this tutorial helpful, and now I will see you in the next one. So hi there and welcome to the new section of my PHP course. In this section, we will be diving into the world of the PHP operators. In this section, we will cover everything you need to know about the operators in PHP, including the operator precedence, arithmetic operator, assignment operators, comparison operators, incrementing and decrementing operators, string operators, and type operators. Now, an operator is a symbol or function that performs an operation on one or more operands to produce a result. For example, the plus operator performs the addition on two operands, while the minus operator performs the subtraction. Now there are many different types of operators in programming, including the arithmetic operators, comparison operators, logical operators, and some type operators as well. Now understanding operators in programming is one of the most essential thing when it comes to writing PHP code that performs calculation, manipulates data, and make logical decisions. Now this section will give you the solid foundation in all the different types of operators available in PHP. You will learn how to use the arithmetic operators to perform the mathematical calculation, assignment operators to assign values to variables, comparison operators to compare values, incrementing and decrementing operators to modify values, logical operators to perform logical operations, string operators to manipulate strings, array operators to manipulate arrays, and the type operators to determine the type of a variable. Now, when you finish this section, then you will be able to understand all the different types of operators in PHP and how to use them effectively in your code. So that's it for today's video, guys. And now I will see you in the first video of the operators. So hello and welcome to this tutorial on assignment operators in PHP. Now in programming, assignment operators are used to assign values to variables. Now the basic assignment operator in PHP is the equal to sign. However, there are other types of assignment operators that perform specific functions and can make your code more efficient and concise. Now using assignment operators can help reduce the amount of code you need to write, making it easier to read and maintain. They also make it easier to perform calculations and manipulate data. In this tutorial, I will cover the different types of assignment operators in PHP and how to use them effectively. Now, the basic assignment operator in PHP is the equal to sign. It is used to assign a value to a variable. Whenever we want to assign a value to a variable in PHP, we use the basic assignment operator. For example, if you want to assign the value 10 to a variable, then you have to just type the name of the variable, and then after that you have to type the equal to sign, and finally you have to specify the value that you want to assign to a variable, and then you can just terminate the statement by a semicolon. Now let me just give you the example of some basic assignment operators. So now I'm going to give you the examples with different data types. So the first data type is going to be the string. So I want to assign the string to a variable. Now here you can see I'm using only one equals to sign, and this equals to sign is the assignment operator. We use this in programming to assign values to variables. So now I am assigning the John to this name variable, and now let me also create the number assignment as well. Now here I'm assigning the number to this variable age. Similarly, you can just assign almost any data type using the assignment operator, like is true. This is the boolean data type, and now you can just also assign the arrays. Now I haven't covered the arrays just yet, so whenever I cover the arrays, I will also show you how you can assign the arrays in your variables. Now here I am assigning the value John to the variable name, and now this is the assigning type by value. Now there is also another assigning type, and that is assigning by reference. Now assigning by reference means that we create a reference variable that points to the original variable. Now this allows us to manipulate the original variable through the reference variable. When we assign a variable by reference, we use the ampersand sign before the name of the variable. So now, for example, suppose you have two variables x and y, and if you assign y by reference to x, any changes made to y will also affect the value of x. So now let me show you the example of this. So I'm going to create a variable here. So let's just cut this variable, and I'm going to create a variable here with the name of a, and this variable will have the value 3 here, just like that. And now after that I'm also going to create another variable, and I'm going to name it b. Now what I will do, I will assign the reference to this this variable a inside this variable b. So how do I do that? So first of all, I need to put the ampersand sign just like that, and then I need to just type the name of the variable that I want to assign to this b variable. I want to assign this a to this b variable, so I need to just type the name of a just like that. Now this is what's called the assigning by reference. Now this is a reference variable, and the value of this variable points to another variable, which is this one. This is the original variable. Now whenever I make some changes inside this a variable, the changes will also be affected to this b variable. and that's the reason why it is called the assigning by reference. Now what I am doing here is I have created a variable a and I have assigned the 3 to it, and now I have also created a variable b, and here on the variable b I am assigning the reference to the same variable, which is this one. Now this variable b is now pointing to the same location in the memory, so whenever I change this value, the changes will also be affected to this b variable. And this is not the case when the assigning type is value, like if you are assigning the variable like that without the ampersand sign, and if you make some changes inside the a, then those changes will not be affected on this b variable. So let me just show you. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna type echo, and now I'm gonna just echo, and now I want to just echo a, and then I also want to echo b as well. Let's just quickly echo both of these, and let's just get back to the browser. And now as you can see, I have opened the local host. I have my Apache server running in the background. I'm gonna close this, and let's just open the folder that we have created, or the project, and the name of the project is my PHP tutorial, and I hope this is the name of the project. Yes, this is. As you can see, it has opened this main directory, and inside this I have this first.php file that I have created in the first lecture. So I'm gonna click on this. As you can see, it is giving me the value 3 and 3. Now it is not 33, it is 3 plus 3. It is 3 and 3 separately. So what I need to also do, I need to just add the break here. And if I just get back to the browser, let's refresh the page. As you can see, now I have added the break after these 3 variables. So the next variable is on the next line. Now this is what's called the assigning by value. Here I'm assigning the value of a variable to this b variable, and if I make some changes on a variable, just like that, a is equals to like 8 or 9. Now what you will see the value of a will be like 9, and the value of b will be like 3. The value of b will stay the same, because whenever you assign a variable like that, then it will just create a copy of this original variable and not the reference to the original variable. So whenever you make the changes to the original variable, that change will not be reflected by the second variable, which is this one. And now if I refresh the page, as you can see, this is the value that is coming from the variable a, and this is the value after that is coming from the variable b. Now let's change it to passed by reference. So for making it passed by reference, I need to also put the ampersand sign, just like that. And now this b variable is pointing to the same memory location where this a variable is pointing. So they are pointing to the same values. So whenever I make some changes in the original variable, the changes will also be reflected to this b variable, because they are pointing the same memory location, because I'm assigning the reference to this a variable to this b variable. And let's just get back. Now you will see 9. The value of b variable will also be changed to 9. And if I refresh the page, as you can see, now the changes are here. So that's what called the assigning by reference. Since b is a reference to a, any changes made to a will also affect the value of b. In this case, we change the value of a to 9, which also changed the value of b to 9. So now in PHP, there are some more assignment operators, and those assignment operators are called the arithmetic assignment operators. Now arithmetic assignment operators are the type of assignment operators that allow us to perform a mathematical operation on a variable and then assign the result back to the same variable. Now the general syntax for an arithmetic assignment operator is, first of all, you need to type the name of the variable. Let me just delete this, and let's just create the code from scratch. I'm going to create a variable, and that variable is going to be the arithmetic assignment operator. And now first of all, I'm going to type the name of the variable, and now I'm going to name it as variable, and then after the equals to sign, I'm going to type the value of the variable, which in this case is going to be the string. This is the simple assignment operator, and if you want to make this simple assignment operator an arithmetic assignment operator, what you need to do, you need to type the arithmetic symbol before the assignment operator, just like that. Now this assignment operator is called the addition assignment operator, because you have added the addition sign here. Now there are 6 types of arithmetic assignment operators in PHP. Let me cover them all one by one. So the first arithmetic assignment operator that I want to talk about is the addition assignment operator. Now the addition assignment operator adds the value of the right hand operand to the value of the left hand operand and assigns the result to the left hand operand. So now let me just give you the example what I am saying. So now here I am going to create a variable, and that variable is going to be the x, and now I am assigning the value 10 to it. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the addition assignment operator. So how do I do that? So first of all, I need to type the name of the variable, and that variable is the x. And now after that, I need to type the plus equals to, and then I need to type the value that I want to add inside this x variable. Now what it is doing here is, it is just adding the 5 to this x variable, and it is also assigning the value. So now as you can see, we are using the two different signs. So the first sign here is the plus. So we are adding the 5 to this x variable, and the value of the x variable is 10. So it will make it 15. And then you also have the equals to sign. So what this equals to sign does, as you know, this equals to sign is used to assign values. So now after adding these two values, after adding the x plus 5, the value is going to be 15, and then this 15 will be assigned to this x variable. So now what's happening in the background, let me just show you what is happening in the background. So now here you have the x variable, and then you are adding the 5 to it, just like that. Here after this addition, we also need to assign this value somewhere. So what's happening here is, the PHP interpreter is assigning the value to the x variable. So the x variable is here, the value of the x variable certainly is 10. So here you are also adding the 5 to it. So this is the 5 that you are adding, and after adding the 5, you are assigning the result to the same variable, which is here. So now it will make it 15. So I'm gonna just output the value, and you will see the output 15, and I'm gonna output the x, and let's just get back and let's just refresh the page. As you can see, we are getting the 15 value. Now we can do the same thing using this old syntax. So now I'm gonna comment this, and I'm gonna use this syntax. Now here you can see I'm just adding the 5 to this x variable, which is this one. So it will make it 15, and I'm reassigning the value to the x variable. So now the result is going to be the same. So now if I refresh the page, as you can see, the result is same, but this syntax is the old syntax. So if you want to do, you can use this syntax as well, but if you want, you can also consider this syntax, which is the newer version of this syntax. Now there are some more arithmetic assignment operators, like the subtraction arithmetic assignment operator. Now what this subtraction assignment operator does, it just subtract the value from the x variable. As you can see, we are using the two signs. First of all, it will just perform the operation of this subtraction. So x minus 5, so x is 10, so 10 minus 5 is equal to 5, and then this 5 will be assigned to this x variable, and now the value of the x is going to be 5. So if I just get back to the browser, refresh the page, as you can see, it is 5. So what essentially I'm doing here is, I'm just subtracting the value 5 from the x. So the value of the x is 10, and then I'm doing the same thing that I was doing with the addition operator. I'm assigning the value after this operation to this x variable back, and then now the value of the x will be 5. Let me make it like 20. Now you will see that the value of the x will be like 15, and if I refresh the page, it is 15. So what I'm doing here is, I'm just subtracting the 5 from the x, which will make it 15, and then I'm assigning the value to this x variable, which is here, so it will make it 15. And now this is the old syntax, and this is the new syntax of doing the same thing, and this is what's happening in the background. Similarly, you also have the multiplication assignment operator. For doing that, you have to put the star sign here before the assignment operator, and then it will do the same thing. It will just multiply the x by 5, or whatever the value that you are passing here. Like if I want to pass like 12, then what it will do, it will just multiply this 20 by 12, and then it will assign the result to this x variable back, and here you are outputting the value. Now let's just see. The result is going to be like 240. Obviously, when you multiply the 20 by 12, the result is going to be the 240. Let's try the division assignment operator. So for typing the division assignment operator, you have to just type it like this. And now I want to multiply it by 2. So now it will just multiply this x by 2, and then it will just assign the result to this x variable back. And let's just get back and let's refresh the page. As you can see, if you multiply this 20 by 2, the result is going to be 10, and we are outputting the result here. Similarly, you also have the modulus assignment operator. Now let's just have this modulus assignment operator. So here what it will do, it will just gives us the remainder. So here the remainder is going to be like 0. So let's just refresh the page. As you can see, the remainder is 0. So now if you multiply the 20 by 2, then the remainder of that is going to be like 0. But if I type 3 here, now there will be some kind of remainder here. As you can see, the remainder is going to be the 2. Now similarly, you also have the exponentiation assignment operator. So for typing the exponentiation assignment operator, you need to type this star sign twice. Now if you type it once, then it will be the multiplication assignment operator, and if you type it twice, then it will be the exponentiation assignment operator. So now if you are typing the 3 here, that means you are typing the 20 exponent 3. So 20 exponent 3 means multiplying the 23 times. So 20 so let's just see the result, and if I refresh the page, the result is going to be massive. As you can see, it is 8000. And if let me make this number a little bit shorter, so now let me make it 2. If you multiply 2 3 times, like 2 multiply 2 multiply 2, then the result is going to be 8. And if I type it like this, as you can see, it is just showing the right result. And if you want to do the same thing with the old syntax, what you need to do, you need to type this twice, and just like that. And if I just make it like this, and now you will see the result. You will see the same result. As you can see, it is giving us this result because I have 5 here, and here I was typing 3. So if I type 3 here, now you will see the result is going to be the same, which is the 8. As you can see, now I have the same result. Now the next type of assignment operator that I want to talk about in this video is the string concatenation assignment operator. Now the string concatenation assignment operator in PHP is used to concatenate one string to another string. It appends the right hand string operand to the end of the left hand string operand and assigns the concatenation result back to the left hand string operand. So now I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm gonna clear this, because this time I want to use the string concatenation assignment operator. So I need to type the string in a variable. So that's what I'm going to do. And now I'm going to type str1. That's going to be our first string, and that string has the like text hello here inside it. And now let's terminate it with the semicolon. And after that, I'm going to also create the second string, and that string will have the value world. So I'm going to type world here. I have specified the space here. So whenever I concatenate both of these strings, there will be space in between these two. Now I want to concatenate the second string, which is this one, to this str1. So how do I do that? I will use the string concatenation assignment operator. So now for using the string concatenation assignment operator, I need to type the one string. That's going to be the first string. And now I want to assign the second string to this first string. So I need to type the first string first, and then I need to type the dot, and that's what we use for the concatenation. As you know, when we want to concatenate, but this time we also want to use the assignment, and that's the reason why it is called the concatenation assignment operator. We are using the dot, which is the concatenation operator, and then the equals to sign without the space in between these two. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just concatenate this second string to this str1. So I'm gonna just type it just like this. I have to type the str2. Now it is doing the same thing. So what it is doing, it is just assigning the str1. Let's just type str1, and then after typing the dot, I'm gonna type the str2. Now it is doing this thing at the background. So now first of all, here you can see I have this dot symbol. It is just concatenating the str1 with the str2, and then it is just assigning the result back to this str1. and that's what I'm showing you here. This is the str1, this is the str2, and I'm just concatenating both of these, and I'm assigning the result to this str1. Now let's just comment this old way, and you can also use this way. This is not the old way. Most of the people also use this way, but this is the most convenient way right now. And let's just get back to the browser, and if I just type it like this, as you can see, there is nothing here. The reason for that is we haven't typed the echo, and now I'm gonna echo the str1. So I'm gonna type echo str1, and now you will see hello world in the screen. And if I refresh the page, as you can see, now this string is concatenated as a whole, and now it is a single string. And now I have just concatenated the str2 with the str1. Now moving on, the next assignment operator that I want to talk about in this video is the null coalesce assignment operator. Now the null coalesce assignment operator is the shorthand operator that assigns a default value to a variable if the variable is null. If the variable is not null, it leaves the original value as is. So what I'm gonna do for this, I'm gonna create this another example from scratch. I'm gonna type x is equals to null, and now the value of the x is null. And now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just use the null coalesce assignment operator. So for typing the null coalesce assignment operator, you need to type the question mark twice, and after the twice question mark, you have to type this equals to sign, and then you have to type the default value that you want to assign to this variable. If the value of this variable is null, if the original value of this variable is null, and now I want to assign the default value like this is the default value. Now the data type of this default value could be anything. For this example, I'm using the string, but it could be anything. And now as you can see, the value of this x variable is null. Now this x variable will be assigned this string. So now let's just echo this value just like that, and now you will see the output. I'm going to refresh the page. As you can see, this is the default value, and now the reason why it is showing us the default value, because the original value of this x variable is null where it is declared first. So if I make it like 10, now it will not assign this default value to this x variable, and now your value will be like 10, and it will show the 10 here, as you can see. So this is the use of this null coalescing operator. Now it is showing us this value. The reason is now this x is not null, and now if there is a possibility that a variable could be null, then we use this null coalesce assignment operator to assign the default value to a variable. So now in this video we have covered all the different types of assignment operators. So that's it for today's video. I hope you guys found this tutorial helpful, and now I will see you in the next one.